Hello, this is Jacqueline Lorenz, and I am also speaking on behalf for Lauren and Kelly. We are from National University from ITL 518, Science Integrative Design, and today we are looking at the learning progressions of standards, specifically from the life sciences domain for heredity and inheritance of traits. So what are we focusing on in this particular standard? We're looking at the next generation of science standards expectations for both first and third grade level, specifically looking at the standards for 1 LS3 and 3 LS3. In doing this, we're also defining and applying disciplinary core ideas using technology tools, synergizing with one or more common core standards, and understanding how students can apply higher order thinking using previous knowledge that they have gained from their understanding of specific scientific phenomena. So we are going to first look at first grade, and we're primarily going to focus on the 1LS3 Standard 1, and this standard is looking at making observations to construct an evidence-based account that young plants and animals are alike, but not exactly like their parents. So this standard is focusing on multiple core ideas, particularly with structure and function, growth and development of organisms, information processing, inheritance of traits, and variation of traits. The purpose of this standard is to help students be able to connect how there are specific traits that are passed down from a parent to an offspring, and looking at how there are similarities and differences between a parent and the offspring. We're also looking at how we construct explanations and design solutions. So again, looking at how things happen and looking at how we can explain how traits are passed down from a parent to a child and why. And we're also obtaining, evaluating, and communicating specific information. We're also looking at specific cross-cutting concepts such as patterns and structure and function. So how do we apply this in the classroom? First, we're going to look at our essential question. Do young plants and animals have the same traits as their parents? Why or why not? This is going to connect with the phenomena of how we can tell if two animals or plants are related. And for the first grade standard, we are going to use images to be able to identify specific characteristics between parents and offspring. This again meets the performance expectation for 1 LS3-1 to look at making observations to construct an evidence-based account that young plants and animals are alike but not exactly identical to their parents. So the target is essentially being able to match animal parents to their offspring and exploring similarities and differences. Students should be able to explain how they find similarities and differences and how they know if they're related. So to do this, we can enhance this experience by looking at an English language arts connection, such as this text called Animal Babies. So even from this cover art, you can already identify or explain to the students how there's clearly a mother and there are offspring. And students can be able to connect how they look similar and how they might differ. From a technology connection, students can play a matching game, being able to look at similarities between an offspring and the parent and be able to match up specific images. The standard is also in conjunction with, for grade 1, measurement and data, which is basically looking at specific characteristics and how we measure data, for example, with specific traits such as length or height. So we can look at how two species, somewhere in their development, were probably the same shape or size. One activity students can do is be able to look at a picture between a parent and an offspring. And they can create a form of graphic organizer, such as using boxes or a T-chart, to be able to write down not only the name of the animal, but also its similarities and its difference only between the parent versus the offspring. After students have completed this, they can do a think pair share where they can go with someone else to look at how parents and offspring have similarities and differences, possibly within the same animal or with a completely different animal. To continue extending this, a student could create a Google slide being able to compare and contrast the parent and offspring within the species. By doing this, students will be able to ask additional questions and be able to utilize their peers to be able to educate them about information that they have no prior knowledge to. And they can also identify similarities and differences without the support or scaffolding of the instructor. Now, progressing on to the third grade level, we continue to build upon this previous information from looking at the parent and the offspring by now also analyzing and interpreting data to provide evidence that plants and animals have traits inherited from their parents, but now how it could also be similar to a group of particular organisms. So this, for example, could be looking at how do two parents not only relate to an offspring, but also siblings. So again, continue to build off disciplinary core ideas of inheritance of traits and variations of traits, but now more within a small group. And we are again continuing to analyze and interpret data based on the characteristics of how traits are passed down from parent to offspring, and also looking at patterns. How are these traits passed down and why? So building upon this, we are now looking at how organisms have traits inherited from parents. Do similar organisms have variations of these traits? And this is in conjunction with the phenomena of how plants and animals inherit traits from their parents in order to ensure their survival. So from this, students should be able to not only identify offspring that they've inherited from their parents, but also looking at similar organisms. One example of this could be looking at birds. So how do specific structures of wings enable certain birds to fly, but others do not, such as peacocks, chickens, or penguins? And what do their functions do? Prior knowledge from this consists of how traits are definitely believed to connect from a parent and also understanding why. Also looking at how another family member may also have similar traits, such as siblings, and also looking at how these traits were inherited to ensure their survival. For example, like some birds, they may need to have a specific wing design or structure in order to be able to fly, which would help them escape from predators. Versus penguins, who might not be able to fly, but because they live in the Antarctica, and they live where there's a huge body of water, they're going to be able to need to swim away from predators rather than fly. So in conjunction with this particular example for third grade, we can connect with the English language arts component of understanding this concept of genetics. So this is where we start looking down at the cellular level, how specific traits are passed down from one parent to an offspring or within a group of offspring. We can also use particular videos looking at specific questions and vocabulary regarding inheritance of traits and understanding particular terms that will be passed on as they advance in this particular standard. So one example of an activity that teachers can do to reinforce this standard is using a journal to gather data, and they can use a particular graphic organizer such as a Venn diagram. Students can then not only create a Venn diagram to compare parents and the offspring, but then compare how a parent and multiple offspring have similarities and also differences. They also can look using technology if they have available, such as a tablet, iPad, or Chromebook, to be able to identify why certain traits have passed down from an adult to a child, but also think about reasons how they change between parent and offspring in order to ensure survival. To ensure engagement, students can work in small groups and be able to share what they have discovered and be able to compare their own Venn diagrams with each other. And by using this research, they are able to explain and explore why specific traits are not only more prevalent, but why they're also more significant. Then, students can teach students and have less direct instruction by being able to present their findings and be able to create a whole class compiled list of their data. One example of this could also be, for example, why students have freckles and why there are students with no freckles, and how there are similarities not only between their siblings, but also in relation from parent to themselves, as well as more than one sibling. So this is examining the first and third grade standards regarding heredity and inheritance of traits. And we thank you for watching this video.